Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to How to Leverage Instagram to Grow Your Business. My name is Colin Mahan, and I'm a program manager at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit dedicated to enabling entrepreneurs from all over the world to realize their maximum potentials and grow. As you may have just seen in the chat, the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center, along with our partner Mentor Club, launched a free mentor matching platform for entrepreneurs called Mentor Makers. You can create your own advisory board to guide and inspire you with in-the-moment mentorship from topic experts and professionals dedicated to providing exceptional mentorship to entrepreneurs across all races, industries, and geographies. So find or become a mentor today by using the link in the chat. Mentorship matters to all entrepreneurs. Their success is dependent on it. Now, none of what we do here at the center could be possible without all the amazing support from our sponsors, including Nasdaq, Lehigh University, Bank of the West, KPMG, Wilson Sonsini, Woodruff Sawyer, and BPM. We're humbled and grateful for their contributions. We're going to open up for live Q&A at the end of this event, so please submit your questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen throughout the presentation. Now, before we get started, during these still unique times, we're curious on how sentiment is among the entrepreneurs that we work with. So I'm going to launch a quick poll as you get settled into Zoom land to let us know how you're feeling about your business. It's the end of the year. Hopefully, supply chain is doing better than it was before, and things are rolling along, and we're going to close on a strong note, but know that there's still a lot of concern out there. So thank you for participating. I'm going to give this another moment. I'm going to end this poll, share those results. Looks like optimism is at the top of the key, but understand that there's just a little bit of survival mode out there, a little bit of anxiety, and a little bit of fear. Hopefully, our presentation today will help with some of those negative sentiments. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest in the chat, Hannah Nieves, principal of Hannah Nieves Consulting. She's also a strategic marketing and brand consultant. Hannah, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Over to you.
All right, so give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. And let me just put this on full mode. So can you guys see my screen? I can only see you guys, so feel free to drop it in the chat.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, amazing. So we're going to be talking today all about how to leverage Instagram to grow your business, one of my favorite topics. So let's get started. So again, my name is Hannah. I'm based in the Hudson Valley area of New York, principal and founder of Hannah Nieves Consulting. So we help lifestyle entrepreneurs and brands elevate through what I like to call the HN trio of marketing, branding, and PR. On our education platform, we also support recently established entrepreneurs all the way up to 7 figures through our flagship programs, the Brand Authority Accelerator and the Thrive Collective. Prior to this life, came from corporate America. I was director of marketing of a national home storage company where I still consult for this day. So came from that world of managing multi-million-dollar marketing budgets, leveraging Instagram, which we're going to talk about today. And I'm so sorry, my screen's getting a little bit dark here. Okay, so what's on the agenda? We're going to be talking about the foundations of social media, what to know, why it's important to you, right? Why it's important to growth as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, some of the results that you can achieve, how to optimize your platform. And I'm going to get into in a second how I'm going to teach this as well. We're going to talk about your messaging, how to build an influential platform that you can monetize, and how to curate community and high converting content. So feel free, drop in the chat any questions. So while you're here, again, learning the foundations of Instagram and what you need to know, learning how to optimize that platform, how to build that influential platform that you can sell your products and services on, and importantly, curating a community, which I'm going to get into as well. We're going to wrap things up with crafting high converting content. So I've taught a lot of master classes before, and some of the ways that I teach, again, I'm always going to teach foundations, theory. I want you to kind of know the broader perspective, and then I'm going to move into the implementation. So you will be able to walk away with executing some of the things I teach in this class as well. So before we start, here's some housekeeping. Of course, we have designated Q&A at the end, but feel free, drop your questions in the chat box. I don't know about you, but sometimes I forget those questions if I wait until the end. So drop them in there. Turn off distractions. I think this is huge. Every one of you in here are business owners. You're super busy. You get distracted with your phone and email, but be present. This is your time for you. And also just be open-minded, right? Some of the stuff I might say might not align. It might not make sense for your business model, and that's okay. So take what aligns and adjust to you and your brand. All right, so let's get started. So Instagram and why it's important. Instagram is a visual platform. It's a beautiful platform, right? It has over 1 billion users. So feel free, drop in the chat if you already leverage Instagram for your business. I'd love to know. Since its inception, Instagram has been a powerful platform for creators, entrepreneurs, brands to launch, grow, and expand their reach, engagement, and community. And it's a direct way to sell your products and services, right? It's a direct way to build a brand that fosters community. So some of the key features of the platform here, I'm going to break it down. The app is driven off of engagement, meaning you need to be a social contributor on that platform. We're going to talk about that in a second. It's all about building community and an audience and serving first. And you can increase your reach and visibility through the tools that Instagram provides as well. So why is this important for growth? Number one, it can foster a community. By leveraging Instagram, you can build and foster an engaged audience and community that will not only advocate for you, but buy from you, right? You can build presence. It's a great way to build a presence for your personal brand, for your company. I'd love to know if anyone in here also has a product-based brand. Excuse me. So it's a great way to really expand your reach and establish your unique positioning within the marketplace. And lastly, Millennial and Gen Zs make purchasing decisions very differently. I also consult with corporate companies, and a lot of them are really shifting their messaging to support targeting millennials and Gen Zs, right? And they make buying decisions completely different than baby boomers. One point being, they're going to look at reviews of your company, reviews of your brand, and they're also going to look you up on social and your website before they even work with you. So it's really, really important that we're leveraging this platform. So some of the results that you can achieve. Number one, increase in brand recognition, right? By establishing this presence in this brand, you can expand your reach, you can expand your engagement, and also recognition just by using the tools that the platform provides, like hashtags, for example. You can also expect to see an increase in sales. I have had clients, excuse me, who have grown their businesses solely on Instagram, which is pretty incredible, right? So depending on how you leverage your platform, you can expect to see this overall increase in sales. And lastly, building brand advocates. Advocates that are going to speak on your behalf. Again, going back to that community element, depending on your strategy, you can really see that connected and engaged audience that's going to really engage with your brand, engage with your content, but not only that, share your content with their own audiences as well. So I always like to give examples here. I'm going to give my example as well. So I started out with 200 followers on my platform roughly like 2 years ago. We started this business from burnout, coming from corporate America. I'm sure probably some people on here can relate. Since then, we've built a global client roster. We have full-time employees on our team and amazing contractors. We've been featured in Business Insider, Forbes, Nasdaq, InStyle, just to name a few. Spoke at General Assembly Northeastern, and now launching a physical location next year. And this all came from building a dynamic product suite, delivering an exceptional client experience, creating an omni-channel presence using Instagram, and building a powerful personal brand. That is what I teach, and that is what I do. So, any questions here? Do baby boomers use Instagram? Yes, they do. Absolutely. I just got off a call this morning with a client who that's her sole target demographic. So absolutely. So we're going to start on more of the technical side of things. My apologies for coughing, getting over COVID a month ago. So please bear with me. So how to optimize your profile. This is the foundation here. So we want to make sure, number one, that we're looking at the following. Number one, verbal and visuals. We want to make sure that there's a clear profile image. Now, I kind of broke the rules here, but I always say I recommend a face-to-cam image where people can see you, especially if your brand is under your personal brand. If you operate a company under another entity, you might want to put your logo there. You also want to make sure that you have a strong positioning statement, right? Clearly illustrates who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And you also want to make sure that you have a clear call to action, right? I'm telling my audience what to do when they come on my platform. The last component are optimize highlights for growth. This is really important. Your Instagram is a top of funnel approach, right? It is an entry point to your funnel. When people come on your platform, you want them to do a few things. You want to build the know, like, and trust factor, and you want to give them all the information about your company and your brand. So by the time they go and click this button here, they already know who you are. And it's really just a matter of how can I find the contact form to submit an inquiry or to purchase a product. So we want to refine our target demographic here. This is key. This is the second phase. So you want to make sure it's optimized to refine that specific person that you're trying to get in front of, right? Now, I know we have some personal brands here. We have some early stage companies. We have some more advanced companies. So when you're looking at your target demographic, it can feel like a little bit foundational, right? Or an early stage step, but it truly is pivotal, right? To continue to analyze this. Because as your company grows, right, you might have multiple segments that you're marketing, or your target demographic might grow and mature over time. So we want to get really clear on this person. And when I work with clients, we analyze this for every single offer in our product suite. So I want you to, again, feel free, screenshot this page here, come back to this, but who is your target demographic? Who are they? And not just, how old they are, where they're located, their educational status, but I want you to get deeper here, right? What do they value? What are their interests, right? What other brands do they like? What are their pain points or areas to solve a problem? This is key. This is key for foundational marketing here. And what are their desires or goals? And then how does your company solve that problem? So we're always thinking, how can we go from point A to point B? You are the answer to the solution here. So again, I can spend an entire workshop just on messaging alone. But the third phase here is really getting clear on your messaging and your positioning. But I want to summarize this on one slide here. So you want to understand where your brand fits within the marketplace and what other people in your space are doing as well. So one of my best recommendations is to kick off with a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. It's a foundational exercise that you go through in business school. And sometimes you can feel like, well, am I ever going to use this? Yes, it's really important. It's really helpful. I even do this on a quarterly basis in my own personal business. But your messaging is key to building a loyal audience and an audience that will eventually convert. So you want to get clear on what you offer as a company. For those in here that do have product brands or service-based brands, you want to get very clear in that product suite. You want to get very clear in that brand voice. How do you sound? How do people feel when they engage with your content? And you want to also have unique messaging angles. A really, really great book for anyone in here, How to Build a Story Brand. It's one of my favorite books, but you really want to get clear on the stories that you tell on social, because that's how you build connection. Some questions to ask here. Again, screenshot this, come back to this, but how does my brand feel both verbally and visually to my audience, right? Is it relatable? Is it maybe more sophisticated and trendy? Is it more timeless? It's elegant, right? How does your brand feel? How is my brand positioned within the marketplace? That's a big one. And what are my brand values and how are they being illustrated? Another key component when you're going through the brand messaging exercises, but really important. Next up, we want to get clear on our content pillars, right? You want to make sure that the content that you're resonates with that audience, right? So every slide that I'm talking to you about right now is building off of each other. You need to know who you're talking to. You need to know the unique messaging. You need to know the content that's coming out. So we want to get clear on that, right? So in terms of your content pillars, you should really illustrate what your brand is known for. So again, if you're watching the replay, come back, maybe pause this. But when you're thinking about your content pillars, it's the things that you're known for on your platform. So they should be clear and specific to your brand, right? You want to ideally keep them 3 to 5 core pillars that you're known for. It's okay if you have a little less or a little more, but ideally 3 to 5. The way that you can execute this, and again, I'm going to give you something to take away from this masterclass afterwards, is you can rotate through them in your content. So you can rotate through them every single day or throughout the week. I'm going to give you an example. So these are an example of my brand pillars. So we teach on marketing, branding, PR, client experience, and overall business growth. And the way that I execute those brand pillars is either by rotating through them or having a themed week where I just talk about business growth, for example. So you can do this any way you like, but you want to have those key 3 to 5 core pillars defined. But don't get this confused with your brand values. This is a little bit different. Your brand values are the core beliefs that your brand stands for, which is different than the topics that you talk about or are known for, right? Our core values: honesty, transparency, client experience, right? Integrity. Those are things that we embody as a brand and can be illustrated in the way that we show up. Different than the things that we talk about. Okay, so we talked about a lot so far. And again, I'm moving through this because I want to get to that Q&A where I can give you some interactive feedback here. But the first step too, especially, and again, some of you in here that already have an established platform, some of you in here might be in the newer phases, it's totally fine. But again, really, really important to set intentions and a strategy. So now that we've covered the foundations of Instagram, let's move into strategy, more of the higher level components here. Before you commit, or even those that already have a platform, audit. How much time do you spend on this per week? This is key. How much time do you want to devote to this? Once you've allocated the time in your calendar, listen, we are all busy people. Once you allocate the time, now you can put a reoccurring calendar invite so you can devote time to the strategy, right? What does it take to build a platform? Content writing, engagement, right? Connecting with your audience, creating video content, showing up in stories. These are all of the tasks that you would be doing to execute. And then I want you to really think too, why do you want to do this? That's important. Why do you want to do anything? Is it to drive leads? Is it to build presence? Are you launching a new product? And what are you looking to get out of this, right? For some people, this increase in sales, tapping into a new market, increasing your audience size, right? Although I wouldn't lead with growing your audience size as the sole goal, because again, vanity metrics, not that important. So part of a successful strategy is also analyzing and really making data-driven decisions, right? Now, keep in mind, this is not just looking at followers here. So I'm going to give you some recommendations of some things that you can track. Website traffic being number 1. Saves and shares being number 2, right? How many times people are sharing their content to stories? Engagement, right? You probably see this with some companies, right? Where you see they have 100,000 followers, right? But they have 10 likes on a post. Yeah. You want to engage with this audience so that they engage back. I also look at overall sales. You can use UTM tracking links to track this. And then also overall positioning. Are you positioning your brand in the way that you want to, right? These are just some of the ways you can analyze your results on Instagram. All right. Check-in point here. I know we covered a lot, so let me answer some questions. Okay, so I see a question on, I'm about 200 followers right now. How much growth should I target per month? Great question. Amy, I would not be as, I guess, focused on the follower growth. I would actually be focused on how engaged that audience is. Like, are they asking you questions? Are they commenting on your posts? I would track engagement rate. I mean, also look at the stats too. What I also like to really look at is your website clicks, right? How are you driving traffic back to your website? So I hope that helps. All right. I have a business Instagram. I don't use my personal one. Is that a problem? That is not a problem at all. Depending on your business entity, highly recommend business or creator accounts. I personally am on a creator account, excuse me. Reason being, you can track analytics. On a personal account, you cannot do that. Can we have a video replay? Yes, I think this is going up on YouTube. So, but Colin and Cody can answer that. Cool. And again, come back to this. If you have any questions at all, please feel free, send me a DM on Instagram. But I want to kind of kick off how to build an influential platform here. The key to growth isn't in the vanity metrics. That's what a lot of people think, right? I need to get more followers. I need to get to 10K. It doesn't mean anything. I have seen people who have 100,000 followers that make $0 on social media. And I've also seen people who have a less than $1,000 followers on Instagram and have multi-seven-figure businesses. So the actual audience size doesn't mean anything. It's the growth. It's really the engagement component, right? How engaged is your audience? And we do that through building an intentional community. So this is the final phase, how to build an influential platform. Over the course of this workshop here, we've been talking about the foundations, the platform itself, the foundations of Instagram, messaging, target audience, right? Now we're moving into how to build community. So number one, it starts with putting your audience first. This is where brands get it wrong, right? If you go onto the platform just trying to sell your stuff, sell your products, sell your services, and you're not giving value, that's not how you build community, right? You also want to change this narrative from me to we. It is much bigger than you. And I don't care if you have a personal brand or you operate under another entity, right? You can still build community if you have a personal brand. You also want to put impact and service first. This is key. This is key. And then one of the next few slides here, I'm going to talk about the 80-20 principle. So important. And you want to build a community built on core values. This is really important. Even large entities are focusing on community growth on their platforms. Large corporate companies, same thing. It's becoming very, very popular. And the key, honestly, to building an engaged audience is to really foster people around core values, a core message, right? And to do that, we need to understand how to build this content, build high converting content. Now, I'm not just talking about building high converting content that's going to convert to sales. That is one component of it. But I'm talking about content that's going to convert people to engage with you, convert people to interact with you, leave comments on your posts. But how do you actually do this, right? It starts with understanding your positioning and your messaging, which we covered. And I know I put it on one slide there. I could take an entire class just talking about it. You really want to understand where you're uniquely positioned and the message that you're trying to get across. This is so, so important. You also really need to understand your audience, which we covered, right? There's like this conception that like, if I build it, they will come. And it can't be farthest from the truth, right? We need to engage with the audience. We need to get feedback. We need to make sure that the content we're putting out makes sense, right? Building high converting content helps to build the know, like, and trust factor. For someone to buy from you, they have to have all three. They can't just have one or the other. They have to have all three. And you can do this by putting out content that builds that know, like, and trust factor. This also involves promoting your offers, right? It's so interesting when I talk to clients too about this. And sometimes it can be, kind of scary to talk about your offers on social media if you've never done it before. But again, I always go back to this 80-20 principle, 80% value add, 20% I'm going to sell to you, right? You want to make sure you're talking about your offers at the end of the day. Never assume that your audience knows how to buy from you. That is really, really important. No matter how big you get, you never want to assume that your audience knows how to buy from you. Tell your audience how you can work with them. Tell your audience about your products. And this goes into understanding buyer psychology, right? So I'm going to give an example. Now, keep in mind, your company might not need to have more of the micro blog captions. I'm just giving you an example of one. So here's an example of how I build that caption, basically broken down, where I'm building up engagement here. So key to creating high converting content is super simple. Hook, story, close. And this is what I'm going to break down here. So the hook is when you are swiping on Instagram and you see a post, there's like the first line that shows up. That's the hook. You want to get people to stop when they are in the news feed. And the same thing can be applied to Instagram Reels if video content is where you're going to be prioritizing. Then from there, I go into the story, right? Showing my personality, sharing my brand voice, and I'm giving value. In this type of post, I'm teaching something. I'm giving 1 tip, 2 tip, 3 tips here for people to take away and execute. And then I'm telling my audience what I want them to do. Now you notice here, I'm not telling them, hey, buy my services, work with me, right? I'm asking them to drop their questions. I'm asking my audience to engage with me. And you want to do this in a way that's authentic to you. Now, for those in here that have product-based brands, this might not look like a normal caption for you, and that's okay. You really want to define, and I'm going to show you at the end the resource I made for you guys, but you really want to define how your audience engages with you, right? What are the things that you're trying to share? This is just an example. Okay. And how this plays a role in attraction-based marketing and how it all ties together here. So instead of focusing your content, again, going back here, I'm actually not selling anything, right? Instead of focusing on buy this or why you need to buy this, why you need to invest in me, why you need to buy my master classes, right? It starts with creating this consistent high value content. Now, if you have never, or you just launched your platform, and if you're in the, done for you service provider, consultant, agency owner, any of those spaces as well, you want to give a lot of content for free. This is one thing that I think, again, there's always mixed feelings. I opt to take the route. I'd much rather show up and give you what to expect when you do work with me, so you do know what to expect when you actually do work with me, right? And how do you do that? How do you build this platform up where you have people engaging with you, asking about your offers, asking about how to work with you? It's all in attraction-based marketing. So this is where you can kind of break down that educational teaching content that I just showed you, promotional content where I sell to you, and connection-based content. That's where I build a connection, a relationship with you. And you can do this by leveraging what the platform has. Instagram stories, right? Instagram story, little bubbles at the top. This is a fantastic tool in order for you to show behind the scenes. And I'll give a few examples. If you're a product-based brand, for example, maybe you're showing behind the scenes of you packing orders for the holidays right now, right? Showing a behind the scenes of what it takes to get your product from, manufacturing to in the client's or customer's door. Maybe for some of you in here that are service providers, agency owners, consultants of some capacity, coaches, for example, maybe you're leveraging your Instagram stories to teach, to educate, to show behind the scenes. It's how you breathe life into your content. And lastly, by maintaining that 80-20 rule that I mentioned a few times, you can build brand advocates. I can't tell you how many times I've had people who tell me, I've been following your content for a while, and I really appreciate how much value you provide on the platform. I will have people who will literally refer people to me and don't even work with me. They're the silent lurkers, right? The people who will engage with your content, but go and refer you to a friend. Really, really important here. And this concept, again, I can spend an entire class just on this alone, but it's really, really important to really focus on delivering high value content. A lot of people come to me and ask me, how do I build this platform up? How do I grow my audience? And they think there's a lot of strategic strategies, which there are, don't get me wrong. However, it really comes back to delivering exceptionally high value content, connecting with the right audience, and leveraging the tools. And what are the tools? Instagram stories, Instagram reels, hashtags, right? And actually talking to your audience. It's key. So some trends I'm seeing for 2022, heavy emphasis on video marketing. Instagram is competing with TikTok, right? And they are prioritizing those Instagram reels, which for some brands, it might make sense. For some brands, it might not. So Instagram reels, fantastic way to grow your platform. Again, community-centered approach to Instagram. Large corporate entities, $500 million brands are focusing on community growth. I also foresee brands are going to shift to user-generated content in 2022. What does that mean, right? These polished brands that you see online, for example, product-based brands that rely on heavy, brand photography and brand shoots that are very put together with models. Not to say they're going to go away. However, you're going to see a lot more brands that are going to be using real, authentic content, right? Burt's Bees just reached out to my client who posted a reel using their products. And it was of a mom of 5 children showcasing how she was using the products. And it was so real. It was so real. Brands are looking for this. Let me put the display up. And lastly, I foresee less curated and more authenticity from creators and brands. You are already starting to see this across the board. People want to see the real behind the scenes of these companies, the real behind the scenes of these creators. And this is huge. And this is something that I foresee being big as we move into 2022. Okay, we're going to wrap it all up here. I know I've been talking a lot and I want to be able to answer all of your questions here. So my last tips and tricks here are you want to make sure you stay consistent. So in terms of like going from 200 followers to 13,000 followers, that was just from consistency. Consistency of showing up, creating the content, fostering relationships, right? When people DM me, I will voice memo them back. I will have conversations with them. I can't tell you, even with product-based brands, you can leverage this as well, right? Carve out time to engage with your audience. This is huge. No matter if you're product or service-based, you need to talk to your audience. So when they comment on your post, you want to make sure you respond back. You want to make sure that you are having a conversation with them. When you're on stories, use the polls feature. Great way to build conversation. Use the questions box feature. Fantastic way to build engagement. And lastly, don't get caught up with the new feature on Instagram. I feel like this happens a lot with clients, like the algorithm's not working, or my engagement's down, my reach is down. Focus on giving value. Be of service as a brand, as an entrepreneur on Instagram. This is huge. That's a big thing. A lot of people get focused in on the latest update, what they're changing, what they're doing, and really just comes down to, again, delivering that content that's valuable and talking to your audience. So recap and summary here. Again, we covered a lot. We covered the foundations in the beginning here, why it's important for you. Again, I'm always thinking, how is this important to you, right? How to optimize your platform. We talked about a little bit of the technical components, how to get clear on that messaging, creating content, and more importantly, fostering community, and doing that through building high converting content. So I also made you guys something which they are going to be distributing a link, which is a content calendar. So remember what I was talking about before with the different types of content buckets? In this content calendar, if you don't like Google Sheets, it might be a problem, but it's on Google Sheets and I love it. I actually use this for myself. You can break down the different types of content you can plan out, and you can also break down your content buckets. So once you define what your content buckets are, you can use a spreadsheet to brainstorm your content. I always recommend planning out your content. I feel like, again, some clients can do it on the fly. For me personally, I love to plan it out so I can see when I'm going to be posting over the next few weeks. So that is a tool that I gave you. And thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to answer all of your questions. So I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen, and that way I can answer some of these questions. So give me 1 second. Let me just close this. Okay. We got a lot of questions. Okay. So amazing. I'm glad it was good, Kathy. If there's any questions, just let me know. I know it's a lot of information all at once, which can feel really overwhelming. but come back to this. I just encourage you, come back to this. And also like screenshot things, take it slow. It's a learning process. Okay, I am using my personal account, but I want to start an account for my startup. Should I create a new one or can I use my personal account? You could use the same one. The only downside to that is that you have an audience, like for example, I don't know if you have predominantly like friends and family that follow that account, but it might not be the right target audience that you're trying to tap into. Excuse me. For any of my startup founders in here, I actually recommend keeping the personal and add another one for your startup. That way you can build your personal brand. Okay. Do you recommend using images or videos? So great question. In the content calendar that I gave you guys, in the last section there, one of the rows, I actually have where you can toggle between video, static imagery, Instagram Reels. I always say if you can opt for Instagram Reels, the better. I am not a good example of this. I am very inconsistent with even my own Reels. However, it's because I haven't batched them. So I would recommend if you're going to use video, leverage Instagram stories, easy, low-hanging fruit. All you have to do is hold the phone up to your face. If you want to take a more creative approach, you can also use Instagram Reels. I hope that was helpful. Okay. For a startup intending to sell meat products to businesses, hotels, and supermarkets, how do you use Instagram knowing your immediate target market is a business and not necessarily looking to buy on Instagram? This is a great question. I highly recommend, again, even if your ideal client is not buying from you on Instagram, right? It's still helpful to have the platform there. So some recommendations I might give you would be to specifically have a presence, showcase maybe even like where the meat comes from, right? Like for example, is it organic meat? Is it, you want to really showcase that, showcase the team behind the company as well, right? Where is the product made? All those different types of things. I think you can still educate that audience on. So still really helpful. Awesome. Okay. Is there a recipe to convert my personal Instagram network, like family and friends, into a network of people? You can absolutely keep your personal Instagram and then also have people get new people on that platform. Sometimes I don't recommend it because again, you're going to have to do a lot of heavy lifting with engaging a new audience. And sometimes that existing audience might not necessarily want to see just business content. Like when I created my business, I created another Instagram account. I have a personal one too that I just, post pics of my husband and my house and things like that. But other than that, I use my business one. Such great questions here. Do visuals help with engagement? Absolutely. I mentioned before, if any of you in here are more personal brand, coaches, consultants, agency owners, anything along that line, I do highly recommend getting a brand shoot. Not that your Instagram needs to look totally curated. However, it is really helpful. And especially for anyone in here as a product, you absolutely want product imagery. Super important. How specific should you get with your target audience? Great question, Lexi. I always recommend, again, not that you need to focus on how old they are, where do they live, things like that, but you really want to get very granular on what do they value. So what do they value? What types of brands do they value? Maybe your target demographic really values sustainability. I'm just making this up. Things like that. And also really identify, what is this ideal client struggling with? And I don't mean to push on pain points here, but what are they struggling with? For example, I'm going to give an example of my ideal client, right? They might have an established business already, right? They've grown, they're successful, but they're really looking to refine their messaging to attract a different target demographic, right? I come in as more of that solution to support that client from going from here to here. So I want you to get really granular on, again, pain points, desires, and then how do you come into the mix? Fantastic question. Maya says hashtags. Yes, hashtags are a beast, but I will tell you they work. I just had, I kid you not, a consultation call before this with a person who literally was searching for consultant on Instagram and found me. So they work. I definitely recommend using hashtags that are relevant to your brand though. So for example, I will use hashtags like, consultant, personal brand strategist, Instagram marketing, things like that. And then also for anyone in here that's like more local, make sure you use local hashtags. That is key. So hashtags are a combination of multiple things. I might even have on my Instagram alone a mini training under marketing. I have to check, but let me know if you have any questions on that. Okay. How to image posts do as compared to video? To be honest, they definitely prefer video over static imagery. What I've also seen work really, really well are what I like to call like quote cards. So like you ever see those posts where like there's a quote on it, or there's a carousel where they're teaching. For me, those posts end up performing the best. You do not need to hire a videographer, but you also can. For anyone in here that has an iPhone, let me tell you, the 4K setting on your iPhone is amazing. Amazing. You can create the best content with just turning on that feature alone. It's a 4K feature. For product-based businesses, how much latitude do you have in talking about other things in your products? Great question, Kim. I'm curious to know if you want to drop in the chat what your product is, but depending on what it is, a lot of brands want to know behind the product. This is huge. A lot of consumers want more transparency with brands. So I recommend for you to also talk about you as a founder, the story. Why did this product come into fruition, right? Showcase where it's made, how it's made. So there's a lot of different things that you can do, but I would also incorporate you as a founder. Okay. How to find Instagram templates for business. I'm going to type this in the chat for you guys here because this is one of my favorites. I recommend Creative Market or Canva. Super easy. If you are not a designer, Creative Market, you have to pay for them. Canva, there is a free trial with Canva, but if you do the paid, I think it's like $12 a month, they have fantastic templates on there. So what types of content have you found the most valuable for your business? Great question. I don't think there's like one specific piece of content, Amy. It's more of like a conglomerate of all of them together. So I would say a combination of delivering educational content where like I am teaching. My audience knows I will come on, I will teach a mini training like how to do XYZ, right? I also show behind the scenes of my life as well. I have a big passion for design. My husband and I just built a home, and I weave that into my content, and my audience really likes it. They like to know who I am as a person outside of the business. So I would say teaching, personal content, polarizing content, right? Where maybe I'm taking an industry standard and flipping it on its head. So those are just some of the types of content. Do you recommend reusing the same content? You can absolutely reuse the same content. I would not use the same imagery with it though. That's just one recommendation. Maybe you take an old post that performed good like a year ago, refresh the tips in there. You can absolutely do that. Great questions, guys. These are so good. Do you think this approach can work for other social media platforms? Can you expand on that a little bit more, maybe in the chat? Reason being, your strategy for Instagram is not going to work necessarily for TikTok, and it might not work for Pinterest or YouTube. So if that's the question that you're asking, the short answer is no, unfortunately. Every platform has their unique angle. So just something to be mindful of. Okay, how many times a day or week do we need to post? Another great question as well. Short answer is it depends. Now, for me personally, I was posting 5 days a week for a long, long time. Now I'm lucky if I post maybe like 3 or 4. My audience prefers Instagram stories. Now, if you're a product-based brand, you don't necessarily need to be posting every single day. I would recommend though that you're going on stories. That's key. because again, people are going to see you more on stories than they are in the feed. What time of day? That depends on your audience. One of the ways to find this out is to go into your settings or your insights on your Instagram platform. If you go to insights, there is a section on there that shows you the time of day. I was trying to pull it up in a second, but it shows you the time of day and what days work for your platform. Amy said, I can't see in Reels. It's all good. They're not necessarily necessary. I have a really good friend of mine who I interviewed in my podcast. She's a really big writer. You will not see her face on Reels at all. But what she does are these beautiful excerpts from her book. So it's like shareable content. And I'm going to see if I can just show you guys a really quick example because it's a little bit different than Reels. For some people, like a post like this will perform a lot better than an Instagram reel. You don't have to do it. Okay, just started a business account. What content should I start with? That's a great question, a very loaded question. So it really is going to depend on your business, who you're targeting, and what your goals are. So feel free to drop in the chat or you can message me after. Days on what, I just answered that question on what days and time. Okay, Kathy said, I just rebranded and will be launching a new website next year. Amazing. I know it's a big project, so congrats. I have recently launched Instagram with a new brand. Is this an issue if I still have an old website? No, not necessarily, unless you're driving the traffic back to your old website. You're going to want to make sure that you update that with the new branding. So it sounds like, Kathy, you're changing your company name, if I'm not mistaken. So if that's the case, I would bring your audience in for the change. Let them know this is what we're doing. We're rebranding to this new company. Question around, do you recommend to manage myself or hire a company? So for anyone that's listening in, before you hire to, like, for example, we do social media management. Before you go and hire a company for social media management, you want to have the following set up. Number one, you want to have a website. So you want to make sure that you have a website to drive traffic to. That's number one. You want to have an established brand, meaning you know your positioning, you know who you're talking to, you know your messaging, which is key. This is really, really important. And that you have a product that's already validated. This is key. A lot of people go into wanting to hire a social media manager or an agency beforehand. And I highly recommend that you don't do that, just because you want to get clear on those things first before you outsource it. It's really important. How do you get focused on the topics that you want to talk about if you're teaching or coaching? How do you get focused on the topics you want to talk about if you're teaching or coaching? So Abby, I would get clear on what type of coach are you? Are you in the business space? Are you in the health space? That's really important as well. And what are your offers? So I'm more than happy to talk after. Annabelle says, Instagram does not offer reviews like Google. Yes, I know. They should come up with a resource like that. So client reviews are so important. You should, I mean, again, I taught a masterclass on this, on client experience. You should absolutely, at the end of your time with working with a client, or if you have a product-based business, you should be asking for a review after they test the product out or buy the product. So if you can capture that, whether it's through, an email or something along those lines, or drive your clients to go to Google to give a review. I would honestly prefer that over Yelp. So just a personal preference. I would choose Google over Yelp any day for reviews. Okay, Kim says, I need more PR coverage. How can I use my Instagram or social activity to get more PR opportunities? Great. You don't need the biggest platform for PR, Kim. I focus on PR heavily. You do want to make sure that if someone were to land on there, like an editor, a podcast host, or a writer, that they know what you do, right? And you're driving them to a website. So I think that's really key. It really depends on what your PR goals are. So happy to chat after. Luke says, does offering value content need to be directly related to the product or offering? Not necessarily. For example, Luke, like I also talk a lot about I talk a lot about my home and design in my content, which doesn't necessarily relate to the business stuff that I talk about, and it's still valuable. So people ask me all the time, like how I grew my business and how, things I invest in and things like that. And I will bring that into my content as well. Okay, how to target baby boomers as they are not much active on Instagram. You would be surprised. I literally just had a call with a client today who just focuses on baby boomers. They are absolutely on there, and they're also on other platforms. So you also want to listen and see like where are your ideal clients, right? They might be on Pinterest, for example. They might be on Facebook. So you really want to identify where they are, but they are absolutely on there. Look up hashtags as well. And I would also look up other brands that your ideal client might be following too. So maybe, for example, your target demographic follows, Martha Stewart Living or Elle Decor or Architectural Digest. I'm just making this up. Right? You want to also know what your customers' interests are. All right, great question. What is it meant by local hashtags? Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. One way to find this out is to look at local businesses in your area. A lot of them will help support each other by liking on their posts, commenting on their posts. For example, I live in the Hudson Valley area of New York, and there's a lot of hashtags on like Beacon, New York, Poughkeepsie, Hopewell Junction. So I like to use a lot of local hashtags as well to get local audience. Okay. Massia, I can definitely connect with you afterwards on that question because I don't think I can share my screen. I own a retail operation. The products I sell are widely, I think that one got cut off. Feel free to put it in the chat. The question on the caption breakdown, I'm going to type it in the chat for everyone. Hook, story, call to action. Those were the three. Okay. All right. We have what kind of content is most engaging on Instagram? I think I answered this a little bit before. Video content tends to perform so well. Also, I find like the quote cards where like you can share something that people can reshare performs so well. It's what I like to call polarizing content. What do I think about paid ads? Okay. So for anyone in here that's thinking about using paid ads, number one, you want to make sure that the paid ad, well, first off, you want to make sure that you have a validated product. That's number one. You have an established brand. Number two, like make sure your brand reflects who you are, reflects who what your messaging is. If your product, you are a product-based brand, I would make sure you have beautiful imagery as well. That's before you even go to paid ads. I have seen people who have leveraged paid ads and spent $50,000 on them and it didn't work. And I've also seen people that use paid ads and it's worked very well. But the key to that really is, again, building that brand first, validating the product first before you go and dump money on ads, because they can be very costly. So it's just one thing. I don't teach paid ads in my content primarily. I teach predominantly organic first and then go to paid. Hope that helps. Awesome. Great questions. And feel free to let me know if there's any more, or you can connect with me on Instagram. I'll drop it here. And then we can go from there. My pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you, Hannah. That was great. And you went to all the questions, which is awesome. If you were to give everyone one takeaway, if they were only going to listen in on 30 seconds of this entire presentation, what do you got for them?
Takeaway here are number one, build a brand that's authentic to you and your values. This is key. You really want to deliver high value content. I cannot say this enough. A lot of people get really tripped up with all of the technical strategies, but you really want to give high value content. And lastly, like, talk to your people, talk to your audience. It's really not as difficult as it seems. It's really just really connecting with the audience. So
great advice to end a great session and presentation. Hannah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to DM me on Instagram, or you can send me an email too. So
awesome. And as mentioned, we've dropped links in to stay in touch with Hannah. Before we wrap, I'm going to launch one final poll to let us know what you want in the new year as far as program topics. So let us know what's keeping you up at night and what we can do to provide more education around what topics that you want to learn from. We're going to use this to fuel our Q1 engine. All righty. All right. Well, I'm going to end this poll and share those results. Looks like marketing's at the top of the key, but hopefully Hannah's presentation today helped you all with that. So we appreciate you, Hannah, for contributing your time, talent, and expertise to our community today, and wishing everybody a happy holiday season. We look forward to welcoming you all back online in the new year. Thanks again, Hannah.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.